A man had been murdered, and I was Sherlock Holmes. The inspector told me all about it.
A gentleman by the name of Peter Carey, also known as Black Peter, has been murdered.
But before I could go investigate, I needed to choose my outfit. Something that said, I'm gonna solve this murder. Perfect. There was only one problem. Those items were locked. My mustachioed, bespectacled Sherlock Holmes would have to wait for another day. And so I went to the scene of the crime. I noticed something almost straight away. Footprints. What did they mean? Of course, Sherlock had something useful to say.
These footprints appear to be quite large.
I went on with my investigation. I wanted to know what this police officer knew about the murder.
Mr. Holmes?
He said to me sardonically. Could he be trusted? I didn't know. I gave my condolences to the widow, even though she was probably the murderer. She had a guilty face.
My condolences, Mrs. Carey.
Soon I'd spotted another policeman.
Mr. Holmes?
Wait a minute, he seemed eerily like the last police officer. Were they in cahoots? Were they the same person?
Mr. Holmes?
I didn't know.
Mr. Holmes? Mr. Holmes?
Was he even human?
Mr.
I couldn't let robotic policemen stop me. Besides, the inspector had some important information.
Peter Carey's body is inside the cabin.
Oh, well, I guessed that already. Using my strange black and white detective vision, I spotted scratches on the door lock. It was evident that someone had tried to get into the murder scene, and it wasn't me. The victim had been murdered to death. He was deader than brown bread. I hated murder. I averted my gaze and looked at the blood on the floor, only to find a knife and a notebook. What clues would these hold?
JHN are probably the initials of the owner of this notebook.
Oh yeah, well, you know, I could have got that. But there they were, boots. Would these boots match the footprints outside? Would they be the key to uncovering the murderer?
These boots don't match the footprints.
No, these boots were just a ruse to trick me. No, the real evidence was inside, but Holmes was too much of a numpty to know what it was. Instead, he instructed.
This aroma is familiar, but to recognize it, I must construct my associations in one picture.
It was obvious to me it was a ship, but Holmes wasn't having any of it. I'd have to complete the puzzle, or skip it. But finally, I managed it.
Yes, this is a coarse tobacco, quite strong and very popular among sailors.
Ah, intriguing. But there was no time for intriguing. We had a murderer to catch. We set up a sting operation in the dead of night, waiting, hoping that whoever tried to break in earlier would come back. Well, you know, of course they did. It was just inevitable. I ran in, making sure to talk to the armed officer on the way.
Mr. Holmes?
We'd caught him red-handed. He was going to the slammer faster than you could say the word guilty. It was written all over his prepubescent face. Well, not literally, it wasn't. I went to talk to the guilty murdering murderer the next day at the station. The station had an odd mix of felons. What were they doing here? I didn't know.
Mr. Holmes?
Oh no, they got into you too.
Mr. Holmes?
No! I looked at the things I could nick from the murdering murderer. He wouldn't need them. He's a murderer.
Dawson. I've seen this name before. Perhaps my archive holds the answer.
Next, it was time to talk to the suspected murdering murderer.
I don't know. I didn't kill anyone.
Well, which one is it? I don't know, or I didn't kill anyone. Very suspicious. I left him in there to sweat it out. Besides, he probably hadn't done it. His wimpish arms were far too skinny to stab a man with a spear. Besides, I'd had enough murder for one day. I was tired and alone. All I knew was the murderer was out there somewhere. Probably